All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Break the Rules stream. I am your host, Lev Polyakov, at LevPo on Twitter. It is a great pleasure to be here with Styx Hexenhammer 666 back with us. And for the first time, Alex Stein, 99 Prime Time. Welcome, Alex. It is a great pleasure to be here, along with our furry friends. This is Steve, everybody. Say hi, Steve. Steve's been Steve's been a long-time cat of mine. He's a wonderful, wonderful person, and I'm glad to have him here for a bit on the stream. And before we start, I'm just curious. And of course, everybody subscribe, like, click the bell for Steve. Click the bell for this beautiful black cat, Steve. So what I'm curious about is the cat thing. Styx, you've been a fan of cats. Alex, you've been a fan of cats. I just want to start this conversation off by asking, why cats? And let's start with Alex, since you're new here.
Well, I have, I don't know about you guys, I'm sure it's the same, as I suffer from debilitating toxoplasmosis, which is a parasite in their fecal matter from changing their litter box, which infects your brain. And they actually say that toxoplasmosis is so strong that it's able to infect rats, where rats would actually go up to the cats, like thinking that they were their friend. And then the rats would use the toxoplasmosis. You know, they would be under the hypnosis of the toxoplasmosis, and the cats would kill them because it was so strong. So, yeah, I mean, I always grew up with dogs. I got my dog right here. But once you get a cat, the difference between a cat and a dog is like a slut, like a prostitute. Like anybody can, have it sniff its balls. But a cat, you have to buy it treats. You have to romance it. And once you do, it's like a supermodel. Once you get that love, it's a lot better than the love of the whore on the street. So it's, it's just a little more complicated.
Styx, would you agree with that? Are you a fan of cats for the same reason?
I'll be more prosaic and just say that cats rule, and they are snuggly.
Mm-hmm.
That is all that matters. Is they can fit into literally any container that you try to put them in, and they immediately turn to liquid. Dogs generally remain solid.
I like this quote from Winston Churchill. Always remember, a cat looks down on man, a dog looks up to a man, but a pig will look a man right in the eye and see his equal.
And then get turned into bacon, though, so.
Well, I'm a vegetarian. I don't even eat meat. I used to eat a lot of pigs, but that's what we say about pigs. You can like domesticate a pig like a dog. I didn't realize that till I watched some videos online where people were like freaking, hanging out with their dogs. So yeah, I mean, hang out with their pig like it's a dog.
And then
did you ever have a BLT? Because then you'll deconvert from vegetarianism.
I know, they're the best. Trust me, I love it. It is the freaking best. Everybody knows how good meat is. I miss it, but I'm a soy boy now, officially.
Why did you choose to become a vegetarian?
Well, a lot of different reasons, but honestly, it's like I got into conspiracies, and that's not just the main reason, but like they talk about Hillary Clinton talks about like adrenochrome or whatever, and obviously that could be bullshit. My point being is like the adrenalized blood of children, they think gives them some sort of, anti-aging formula. And I feel like when you eat the cow, you're eating the adrenalized blood of the cow. So I just kind of feel like it's low vibrational. I'm a little bit of a Woodstock hippie, a fake Woodstock hippie. So I just stopped eating meat and started eating cheese. But I've gained about 35 pounds in the past year, even though I've been doing it now about 3 years. I'm just saying this past year I've been eating so much fucking pasta and pizza. It's Olive Garden. I love the breadsticks at Olive Garden. I got to stop eating them.
You've got to go keto then.
Would it be possible?
No
That's
more
true.
Carbs for you.
Is it possible to go keto without killing animals, like only have eggs and cheese and stuff like that? I think it is.
I have eggs. I think eggs aren't bad. I think eggs are good. You have some chickens. But like I said, I just, and I eat cheese, and cheese is terrible, like the way they factory farm cheese. So I'm kind of a hypocrite. But now that I've gone this long, I just don't even want to eat meat anymore. Like they give me, like, I could have never thought this in my life. Let's say I order like a pizza or something, and it comes with meat. I don't eat it. I just would have never thought. I'm so anti-food waste, and we're sitting here talking about my vegetarian, but I just would have never thought like sometimes I've thrown pizza in the trash if I didn't have somebody to give it to, and I just would have never thought in the reality, in a world that I live in, and growing up listening and watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles so much, that I'd ever throw away pizza. So it's weird.
Do you agree with me? Pineapple goes on pizza.
Oh, 100%. Are you kidding? The tanginess of the sauce mixed with the sweetness of the pineapple, it's probably the most delicious flavor combination. It's like an explosion in your mouth of the sweet and the salty. It's what they call
Thank
in
goodness.
the Yeah, in Japanese culture, they call that umami, where you have the sweetness and the savory. So, yeah, no, it's one of the most brilliant combinations ever, in my opinion.
So you are not one of the Razor Force heretics that believes that pineapple does not go on pizza, which makes you a bro.
Yeah, I'm a bro all the way. Listen, I'll eat any weird combination. I don't abide by society's rules. I hate rules. I want to habitually break the rules like this podcast.
Break the rules. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about meat that's not factory farmed? For example, I know that certain vegetables that you get at the regular market, maybe little bunnies and little animals died in the production of those vegetables just by the sheer amount of factory farming. But when it comes to meat, like, where the cow comes from, who slaughtered it, would that be a difference karmically speaking? Like, would you eat those animals?
Well, I mean, I don't, but that is a lot better, like an animal that you hunt. But I was watching an old Ali G thing, and they asked, he asked the questions, like he was like trolling these vegetarians, and they said one of the hardest questions they asked in their college, I forget which class it was, but they asked him, would you eat this if there's 2 chickens, and they said you have to eat this dead chicken, or else I'm going to kill this live chicken. Would you eat the meat? That is what they said to them, and then that was kind of like the conundrum. And I would do that if there was like a fried chicken in front of me. They said, I'm going to kill this chicken if you don't eat this meat. I would eat the meat in that conundrum.
Now, I'm kind of curious about your religious views here, because the kind of things that you're into right now, it seems like you are more spiritual than you are religious, but you were brought up Jewish to a certain extent, right?
No. Actually, so my grandfather was a Jew, and he didn't raise my dad. And he actually went and started another family in New York. So I was actually raised Christian. So that's why I'm kind of like, I should be a Jew technically, but I was actually baptized and raised a Christian. And I definitely believe in God 100%. I think that it'd be kind of insane to think that everything started from nothing and that the Big Bang created everything, and that literally we evolved from pond scum. For me, it sounds like scientism more than it does a reality, personally.
What about you, Styx? Where do you stand on where everything was created from?
I'm more apatheistic, but there is the possibility of such a cosmic force. And that's something that won't be admitted to by hardline atheists, which is rather interesting. They claim a gnosis about its non-existence.
And you also lean on reincarnation existing, right?
Yes, I believe in string theory, so I believe in reincarnation by default. Non-karmic, of course.
Why not karmic? Why do you throw karma out?
Well, that wouldn't be very good for most people now, would it? No, it just doesn't make any sense, because it all relies on man's judgment. But yeah, so there is the possibility of a cosmic creative force, which is something that in the past, like I had been a hardline atheist. I don't know if Alex, if you know anything about my spiritual beliefs. In the past, I was a hardline atheist. And over time, it just got kind of boring, because it just becomes a circle jerk of people saying, well, there's no God. And then they have a plethora of different derivations from off of that. And I became more spiritual, so.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think I was ever like a hardline atheist, but it may be more like agnostic. But yeah, I mean, I just when you look at the chain of events of how we got here, I just feel like there had to be somebody that pressed play somewhere for this all to start. I don't know who that is. I don't know, how that works, but I just don't think it's all an accident, personally.
But do you see, for example, the kind of traditions that people have in the United States as far as the Christians, as that being important? And would you say that there's still, even if there's no way to prove whether or not they believe, whether or not this is something that's true that they believe in, it's still something that people have to do in order for there to be a cohesive society? There has to be some kind of a religious dogma in order to keep stability.
I mean, kind of. I mean, I feel like there should be a little, what it does is it holds people to a moral standard that they might have to pay for their consequences. So I think that's kind of a good thing, honestly. Than a religion, I personally think it is. I mean, does society necessarily need it? Yeah, because if we didn't have it whatsoever, then we'd all be atheists. And I think that's the problem with society now, is why we have like this transgender movement with kids. It's like this atheistic mindset where nothing matters. So all these young kids are basically growing up, where they can pick their gender. They don't have any sort of remorse for their actions. And I think you should, I guess, be held accountable for, what is it? Actions have consequences.
Styx, do you concur?
Generally speaking, although I don't think that religion is necessary, I think spirituality is a good thing. I would say organized religion in the sense of actually having like a hierarchical structure, it tends to be rather unhelpful.
I agree. I agree. I think organized religion is one of the biggest plights on man. I'm not saying we shouldn't have it, but it's, the organized religion is used as a weapon against the people as well.
Yeah, well, look at the Marxist Pope.
Well, I mean, you could look at basically a lot of the wars that we've had. I mean, and just look at the Middle East now. You look at the conflict between Israel and Palestine. I mean, it's like they'll never come together because of the religious dogma that they have. And it's just kind of like now we're all going to be drawn into the war. America, we're such a supporter of Israel. So it's just we'll never be able to actually solve things in the Middle East all because of organized religion.
We'll get really fiery here and talk about circumcision rates.
Yeah, well, what about that? I was just thinking, everybody's the anti-circumcision. I wonder, I'm circumcised. I just wonder, what would be different if I wasn't circumcised?
Yeah.
Maybe
not much, but I mean, as an intactivist by default, I happen to oppose it myself.
I'm not a big fan of circumcision either, despite my Jewish heritage. And I would say, though, that with something like circumcision, maybe the original point was to lessen the pleasure so that people are going to be more disciplined. At least that was what the Kellogg's guy thought when he was giving this cereal that's very bland to people. He wanted to completely get rid of the sexual urge that men had and just make them very complacent and compliant.
His cereal turned people on too much. He started getting worried.
Yeah, but wait, that's why he made the cereal, to stop people from masturbating. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the other concern here, that people have a lot of this energy that they don't really know what to do with, and that's why I think we have all these wars and we have these conflicts. Do you think it's natural for people to be in conflict, to have war, and if you suppress that urge for violence, then it's going to erupt in some other way that's even worse than it would have otherwise?
Well, I'm a conflict interventionist. I don't think that we should ever have war. War doesn't make sense. The fact that we're human beings and we have to kill each other with guns and we can't come to an agreement. So, I mean, I'm as anti-war as it gets. I mean, you look at the war in the Middle East. We started a 20-year war and we killed millions of Muslims over weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. And I think that you could look at the Vietnam War. I don't know a justified war that we've been in ever, in my opinion.
It's difficult to say, with the USSR, for example. I don't know, Styx, what you think of this, but when it comes to going to war against somebody who at least if you're not just in it for the money and for enriching your friends, if you know that there is a good chance that there could be an even bigger conflict, is it morally right to prevent a bigger conflict with a smaller conflict preemptively?
Possibly so, but I think that the people that make those decisions are among the most corrupt people in society, and therein really lies the problem now, doesn't it? The people that have the most to gain off of creating a war are the ones that are telling you, hey, we have to kill this person now, otherwise we'll have to kill 10,000 people down the road. I think that's more of a problem. I'm not pacifistic, but that being said, the people that have the actual guns, I mean, in the military sense, they have the little red button and so forth, tend to not be very trustworthy.
I just don't know if there was a time when they ever were trustworthy. I think people are always going to have those instincts regardless of what side you're on. So for me, it's a matter of just choosing the best of all the worst choices here to make sure that we don't get into something even worse. Let's say with World War II, for example, Hitler was expanding onwards even beyond whatever it is that he wanted Germany to have, to make up for the losses in World War I. So that's why I'm always on the side of let's make sure that we know what exactly is going on with these particular individuals, whether they're going to expand or not, and if they are going to expand, is there any way that they could be contained and their force lessened? Not for the sake of enriching these people who probably are going to be enriched because a lot of people are corrupt, that's their nature, but just to make sure that the absolute worst doesn't happen. I don't know, Alex, that's my point of view. I don't know where you stand on making those harder decisions as opposed to just saying outright, I am anti-war no matter what, and that's it.
Well, I'm kind of anti-war no matter what. I mean, seriously, I kind of like Switzerland. I mean, you look at what's happening in the Donbass region of the Ukraine, and now they don't want to give them a little bit of property, or people say, oh, well, if you give a mouse a cookie, you got to give them milk, and Russia's going to take over. But Russia has a real beef. I mean, NATO promised not to keep expanding, east towards Russia. So I think that they have. What, am I wrong, Lev? Am I wrong?
Yes, you're wrong about that.
What am I wrong? Which part am I wrong about?
So the part about NATO expanding, if you look at the original document and what that was about, it was talking specifically in relation to East Germany and West Germany. That was what the conversation was about at that time. Now we have a united Germany. It's a different story. So as far as the origin of that particular understanding that NATO is not going to expand, the other thing is that back then, people were not really sure what direction Russia was going to go in. And that's why I always think it's important to look at where exactly the country is. Is it going to be more corrupt? Is it going to be more warmongering and respond to whatever situation that country is going to be in, as opposed to imagining a country just being in the static state of we're going to be like this forever and ever. That's why if I look at Russia, for example, with the kind of things that Putin talks about, wanting to resurrect the Russian Empire of Peter the Great, as somebody who still has people there, who has had a long history of people who know people who are around Putin, this is not something that I would take, as just this fantasy. This is something that I take quite realistically. So I always want to be on guard to make sure that there is not going to be this kind of expansion, at least for the sake of preventing something even worse. That's the only thing I can do there.
Okay, Lev, well, are you familiar with Hunter Biden and his illegal business dealings with Burisma, an energy company in the Ukraine?
Absolutely, and that's horrible. And this is, by the way, and I want to get back to sticks as well, but this is the thing that I really hate the most about a lot of people who do support Ukraine, where a lot of them also happen to support a lot of woke policies, and a lot of them turn a blind eye to whatever corruption happens with Hunter Biden. And I'm not going to put myself in that category of being pro one thing and anti the other thing. And this is kind of the other thing that I wanted to get into here, where it seems like we are, kind of like the topic of this discussion being deradicalization. We are getting radicalized to such an extent where you, Alex, for example, you would accept certain things, and other things, maybe you dug into them a little bit, not that much, and you're still going to accept them because it's going to be way harder to take a stance where all of a sudden maybe Tucker's not going to be that big of a fan of either your stance or somebody else's stance. If you
Tucker's my biological father. He will
I
always
know.
be my number one fan, Lev. So do not bring my dad
No matter
into
what.
this, okay?
No matter what.
Yes, he always, even if I have a different viewpoint of my father.
You can be
he's still
totally
gonna love
pro-Ukraine. You could be totally pro-Ukraine, and he's going to be cool with you. Well, that's good to know.
Lev, what I would say is I would prefer to just be pro-USA. And
exactly, America
Ukraine
first.
And Russia, yeah, let them fight each other. Ukraine doesn't have nukes. If Russia uses their own on Ukraine, then they get curb stomped. Ukraine can't use them because they don't have them. Let them fight it out. I'm tired of sending tens of billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars over into the melee over there. I don't understand. At this point, I don't even understand the point.
All right, here's the last thing that I'll say about this particular discussion. So, if I was of the opinion that Putin was not going to expand, I would be 100% for your idea and Alex's idea here. I wouldn't care. I'd say, you know what, let's focus on the United States. The problem is that it seems to me this is very similar to what happened before World War II, where America, not to mention Europe, they had PTSD after World War I. The economy was in the shitter. They did not want to do anything that would make him go back into that horrible situation. I don't blame them. But then the problem was like, when would be the right time to do something? How deep in the shit do you have to be as far as this other foreign power like Germany, let's say back in the day, expanding until you do something? That's why
World War I was caused by globalism, and then by the Treaty of Versailles, the onerous and burdensome attack on the German people thereafter, even though they weren't the ones that were actually the progenitor of the war. So
no, I agree there.
If you overlap that logic with what's happening right now, that would almost be a pro-Russian position.
But you're talking about the Treaty of Versailles, and it does suck that things went that way. Things could have gotten a different way. Even Churchill said that he thought World War II was the unnecessary war. But that doesn't mean that situation that people found themselves in when Hitler was expanding was not there. That situation people just happened to find themselves in regardless of what the hell happened before. So that's what I'm saying, like, we are where we are right now. Things could have been done differently with Russia, but now the question is, like, what do we do? If we only focus on the United States, maybe that works out well, maybe Russia's not going to expand, but if it is going to expand, I'm just saying we're going to find ourselves in deeper shit than we are right now.
Yeah, we should have listened to Patton and fought Russia back when it was led by actual communists.
Yes,
Now.
yes, I agree. Even if that means I wouldn't have been born, probably, because the conflict would have probably decimated Russia, and my parents would have ever found each other. That would be worth it, I think, for the Soviet Union not to exist.
It's funny you say that, because I always think about the butterfly effect, and I always think about like back when, now I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, even though they suck, and I always I'll watch like an old Dallas Cowboys thing where they lost in the NFC Championship game before I was born, and I like to think that if they would have won that game, none of us would be here. I wouldn't even be born. So it's funny, everything had to happen exactly the way it did, or else we wouldn't be here. So it's funny for us to have this revisionist history. We wish this would have happened. I just like that comment said, I wouldn't have been born. None of us would have been born if one thing, literally the flap of a butterfly's wings could have caused a car accident. Somebody could have killed somebody, and then it set off a chain of events. So it's like everything had to happen that exact way for us to be here. That's kind of trippy to think about that.
Where do you think, Alex, all of this is going right now with the particular conflicts you happen to find yourself in with AOC, with all of these various protesters? You are on the ground there. You're meeting all these people. Is it necessarily how we see it on the screen, how it's projected to us, or is there something going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing when the cameras are not on, when you're speaking to a lot of these people? What's going on there?
Well, I mean, the real things that are happening in America, it's probably a lot of people fighting on keyboards in their computer. But there are people that are actually going and protesting. But I mean, if I had to describe like what's happening in society, it's I think it's like a de-evolution of society. Like we're just being more and more pitted against each other, which is what they want. They want us to keep fighting, like this Roe versus Wade thing. It's been a dividing point where now there's all these people that were on the left that were like, obese women that had nothing to do, lesbians that don't even get pregnant, don't even have babies. They had nothing to argue about. Now they're all constantly protesting. So I think it's just kind of like how they use trauma-based mind control. I talk about this a lot in order to scare people, in order to make them feel like they can't get an abortion when it's a state's right. You can go get an abortion anywhere. So there's going to constantly be protests. And when I watch old clips and stuff, there's been people who have been protesting about crap. So I don't think it's any different. Maybe there's more vitriol, there's more hate, and there's more division. But I think that's all done on purpose. I do think there's probably a group of elite people that control us by making us fight each other, so we don't ever go after each other. But what I think is the most scary, it's not like the protesting, it's not the man on the street. What's most scary is what's happening right now with Trump, whether you like him or not. I mean, I have some complaints about Trump, but now they're weaponized the Department of Justice to go after him. And there's a lot of other people, I think, that would be ahead of him on that list. You look at Hillary Clinton, you look at Hunter Biden. There's just a lot of other illegal stuff that they could easily find. And so the fact they're going after Trump, it makes me worried. And now they hired 87,000 IRS agents that one of the job qualifications is they must be able to use deadly force. Yeah, I mean, it's I'm more worried about our federal government than I am the people on the street fighting each other. I think that's kind of just that's not even, you can decide to participate in a protest or not, and it never affect your life. But the federal government coming in and stomping on your neck, that you can't choose yes or no about.
And what do you think is the solution to that sticks? Do you think that we can roll back a lot of these problematic acts that were done by Biden and his predecessors when it comes to the power of the federal government to encroach itself upon people?
Yeah, I think that it's possible, but people need to get up and get active. There can't be all of this civic unawareness anymore, where a lot of people, they think that their civic duty is show up on voting day, show up on election day, and cast a piece of paper into a machine. Well, clearly that doesn't work. We've tried that. It's not enough. People need to get more active. Protesting is part of that. Another thing, running for office, knocking on doors, canvassing. And also refusing to not speak out, which is what we're doing here. We're exercising our free speech. There are a lot of people out there that are afraid to do, sort of the comedic or satirical things that Alex Stein does. There are people that are afraid to analyze things as I do. There are people who are afraid to host shows as you do, Lev. We're not being cowardly about it, but there are a lot of people out there that self-silence, I think, at this point. They self-censor. Really, because they're afraid of the system and they feel that it can't be overcome. They don't realize that if they contribute, it can be overcome.
Yeah, and I just want to say this one too. When we talk about people picking their roles and deciding what to do, one of the things that I do, it comes out of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, is I make fun of myself, but I'm trying to mock these politicians, whether it's to their face in front of the Capitol, whether it's at a city council meeting, because that's the only way I think with humor that we can almost break people out of this trance, this like left, right, whatever identity politics trance. We have to make fun of these people, and everybody has a different role to play. It's like a football team. One guy's offensive lineman, one guy's a quarterback, one guy's a wide receiver, whatever. Everybody has their different role, but we all need to do something instead of just letting them take us over and lying down because we feel like, oh, well, we can't do anything. We need to slow down the acceleration into total annihilation of our future.
But what exactly are we leading towards here? Because I'm not opposed to the idea that we do various things to restore the republic, to restore the checks and balances of the system so that it lasts for a long time and that it's as fair as possible. But what I don't like is the idea of this one-upsmanship that, well, we're going to bring Trump into power and it's going to be dark MAGA and he's going to bring in the right-wing death squads. And Alex, I don't think you think that. Obviously, Stiggs does not think that. But there are a lot of people out there, I think, who wouldn't mind if we did have a theocracy, if we had the opposite of whatever system is in right now, where now it's our guy who's in charge. And the one thing that I am very not a fan of when it comes to Trump is the idea, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, is the idea that if he does not like somebody, he's going to get rid of them, and it could be for not even their policies, but what they think about Trump. And even if you say, well, Trump's going to do everything correct, he's going to pass all the right acts, what exactly are the chilling effects of that? Where later on maybe we'll have AOC, Queen AOC in office, and she's going to adopt the same things. And by that point, people are going to be used to this idea, well, now that we have power, we are going to use it to clamp down on everybody, and there's not even going to be these competing branches, and we're just going to, I don't know, I'm painting a very black-pilled scenario right now, but I'm just saying that I think people should be a little bit more concerned about anybody who acts like whatever is said against them, they're just going to fire this person, they're going to get rid of this person. Not so much, well, they're not a good person for the job.
We've had that going on for a very long time anyway. It doesn't start with Trump. It doesn't even start with Obama. So it's really no change when it comes to that.
Sure, I'm not saying that this is not something that hasn't happened before. I'm just saying that it seems like people who are on the right would not be as opposed to that being done as long as it's their guy. I know.
Nobody
am I wrong
would
about that?
on either sides, Lev. Nobody would care as long as it's on their side. The people don't care if they cheat. The people don't care if their opponents die. No, I mean they don't care if they. You're right. If Trump got in and started publicly executing people on the left, people would probably cheer. I mean, seriously, I'm not saying it's that far right, but there would be some people that are like, oh, well, this is pretty cool. Like, I hate AOC. I hate. Because people we're soft-brained, most people, and they're just like, it's almost like, I like the Dallas Cowboys, so I hate all the other teams, It's just this identity politics that's ruining, when really, they say, oh, Alex, you're conservative. I'm not even that conservative. I'm really more of a populist. There's some stuff, I feel like we should have socialized medicine. And obviously, I don't like the government getting involved in stuff because the government's stupid. But regardless, I feel like we have a system where the government's going to exist no matter what, so we should try to figure out how it can benefit the people. So my point being is I think most people meet in the middle, but they don't, they have to pick a side. And that's where we really get screwed up, is picking sides.
Do you think then it's important to have a responsible group of elites? Because I know that it's very anti-elite, the whole atmosphere of the Trump movement. But I do think that people need to have some elite. There's always going to be a natural hierarchy, right? You're always going to have some people who are going to acquire power. And the question is, how do we make sure that that elite is a responsible one as opposed to what I think is an irresponsible one today? So I don't know.
No elites. All elites suck. Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, meritocracy. I don't want all these elites that inherited everything, that inherited a country. I mean, no way. No elites.
But do we have a choice in the matter? Because it's easy to say, well, I don't want any elites, but I think elites are naturally.
Exist.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously. Yeah. But I'm just saying, no, the elitist, I don't like it. I try to have no ego. I try to be anti-elitist because I think that's one of the problems, that people just have this elitist mentality, even when they're not elite. We think we're better than everybody when really we all look in the mirror. We're all self-conscious about something. We all have our own interpersonal issues. So it's just kind of I don't like this idea that because I have money, I'm better than you. That actually makes me sick.
Well, Sticks, I don't know. What do you think about this idea that there's always going to be elites, and how do we go about making sure that they're going to be responsible elites?
Well, they never will be, is the short answer. What I would say is that the way to do it is have a total meritocratic system. So the people that tend to rise to the top, at the very least, there's some sort of skill, there's some sort of reason why they're there. I have a feeling that we can take care of society in general and make sure that nobody is literally a starving urchin on the street without robbing people who happen to be at the top, economically, in power, whatever, of their particular position, if they've gained that position. They're not simply there because they cocked a deal with some foreign state or something. There's a reason why they're there. This is the difference between even like the tech hierarchy, which, you can admire them at least on a fiscal basis, even though they've been corrupted by the politicians at this point. There's a big difference between them and somebody who happens to have a lot of money, a lot of power, et cetera, simply because of their name or something like that.
Well, let's take, for example, I'm going to be very contrarian right now to probably what a lot of people think, which is important to do here, where, let's say the wall. Let's say right now we have Biden building the wall again. What if there were more people around his circle, around Obama's circle, because I think Obama was building somewhat of a wall too, who were thinking to themselves when Trump was saying, well, we're going to build a wall, we're going to kick out yada, yada, yada. Maybe they were saying deep inside, shit, why did he have to open his big mouth and say this? Now we can't build a wall anymore. So it's almost like my Machiavellian mind works in this way, where I think that there are people out there who pretend to be one thing, who pretend to be these socialists, these woke people, but really maybe there are some people in that circle that want there to be a wall, that want there to be a border, but know that they have to just ingratiate themselves to the idiots in order to keep getting elected, meanwhile doing the wall building behind the scenes. What is your approach to this? Do you think it's better to have a very honest, populist, head-on approach saying, this is what I want to do, elites be damned? Or is it better to a certain extent, pretend to say, oh, I love migrants and yada, 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 meanwhile, behind the scenes, building the wall and actually getting things done without the press getting in the way?
Well, it's all fake. Look at Mayor Bowser, the mayor of D.C., and then Eric Adams in New York City. They're complaining about a few busloads of migrants going to New York City and D.C. Right now, they want to call in the National Guard. They want federal government support. Yet here in Texas, every day I see busloads of immigrants get outside. I go to Bachman Lake where I walk all the time. There's literally busloads of people that get let off by the lake. They have their masks on. They have their backpack. And I'm not even anti-immigration, but when you look at the drug trafficking, the sex trafficking that's coming through our border, there's over 108,000 drug overdose deaths this past year because of fentanyl. So it's like the people on the left are like, oh, nobody's illegal on stolen land. And they say all this stupid crap like that. And like anybody can come here. If they go to their neighborhood, they say, get the hell out. I want the National Guard in here. So they're all hypocrites. And I'm here in Texas. I see the immigrants, and I'm not even anti-immigrant. I'm just anti-sex trafficking and anti-drug. So the idea of a wall, like the bare minimum of, a border, I think it's ridiculous that we don't have that.
But isn't Biden building one now? And if he is,
kinda.
He's building the already prepaid for remnant of the Trump wall.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing this was news months ago. All he did was there was 1.4 billion or something like that. It had been allocated for certain elements of the wall in parts of Texas and Arizona, and Biden at midnight, effectively low key on page B, put out a presser saying, okay, yeah, we're actually going to continue the building that Trump started. It's not Biden improving anything. He's just going forward with Trump's initial plan after delaying it for the better part of a year. So it's not Biden attempting to improve the border. He's doing it basically because the money was already there and couldn't, I guess, be spent on anything else.
But wouldn't the idea
couldn't embezzle it?
Well, wouldn't the idea be that if he was so pro having this influx of people coming into America to destroy it from within, why would he continue that project in the first place?
Because that project has to be continued for years and years to come to actually be completed. Trump got the ball rolling, did a great job, at least in my opinion, definitely improved things over hundreds of miles of border, but there's a lot more than a few hundred miles of border. And he was, and Trump was delayed, underfunded. He was obstructed by his own house. Biden is simply doing the last few tens of miles of border that needed to already be either built or retrofitted. That's definitely not Biden attempting to keep people out of the country. That's, again, the very, not even the bare minimum. That's the sub bare minimum, which is that a handful of crossings that were specifically earmarked for improvements happen to be, you've already got the material and the money there. And so you're like, well, otherwise I'm adding to unemployment because all of these laborers have already been contracted to build the wall. Oh, well, midterms approach, I might as well just get it done. It's just about the money for Joe Biden and the appearance.
You don't think it would have been possible for Joe Biden, if he really didn't want there to be any obstruction to the migrants coming in, to say outright, we're going to leave this wall alone, we're not going to do anything there, let the migrants come through, I'm not going to add one more brick to this wall?
Well, that would be politically unfeasible.
I guess so.
You've got your answer.
The wall is bullshit, though. I mean, the wall, they can go under wall, they can go over wall. They just don't want to symbolically build it, Lev, because of the optics. But now you're saying that he is kind of building. He's not really, like, the fact that they're doing a couple miles in Yuma, Arizona, where, like, the hole is so massive. I mean, it's like using, like, a paper towel to try to stop a waterfall. I mean, it's not, they need to actually put, instead of having, this imperialism mindset where we have army bases all over the world, we ought to put army bases on our border if they really cared about our border, because I'm telling you, it's an actual invasion. Like, it's an actual military crisis, in my opinion, when you talk about the drugs and the sex trafficking and the kids. But they don't care about that. All they want to care about is, the border between Russia and Ukraine.
And you'll note that the border czar has not yet visited the southern border. Kamala doesn't want to go into the Biden cages for a reason. She doesn't want to show people. She doesn't want to have a photo op next to the wall, and then the camera pans over 10 feet to the left or to the right, and you see that the wall's not actually there. That's really what this is about.
But just in terms of political strategy here, if we were to put our political strategist hats on, would you say that there is something to the idea of saying one thing to the people, or saying it in such a way that the press, unlike what Trump was doing, the press would not be able to use as much ammunition against you, meanwhile behind the scenes doing exactly what needs to be done in order to build a wall, in order to have a lot more security for the United States? I'm just trying to see if the approach that was taken lately, where everybody's just going head on with whatever it is that they think is the thing that needs to be said to the people, I need to be honest, I need to be true, I need to say these things and mean them, meanwhile all that can be jujitsued against you and getting people who otherwise would have voted for you to now consider you to be the devil incarnate.
Yeah, but your point is right. It's you could do that for strategic purposes, but the thing is, Biden's not doing that. He's just using the last bit of remnant money to clear up a few places, because otherwise you have all of these chunks of wall and all of this money unspent, and Biden loves spending money. It's not to actually try to stop anyone. You could use that as a strategy. You're correct, but that's not, I think, what he's doing. I think he's just in the dead of night, very hush hush. He okays that project, says okay, and Trump will get the last bit of wall and leaves it at that. I don't think there's any grand strategy involved.
I don't just mean it in terms of Biden, I mean it even more in terms of Trump and the MAGA movement, where there's a lot of people I know in New York City who absolutely hate Trump's guts, who nevertheless, if you were to ask them about certain policies, I think they even did that, right? Like where they were talking about these policies being Obama's and then revealing at the end, oh, these are actually Trump's policies, and people being, oh my God. So I think there are more people who would agree with Trump's policies, but they're just turned off.
Yeah, of course, because people actually like our country, but there's so many like TikTokers and YouTubers that go and ask people, and I've done the same thing. You ask, people, especially like the black community, do you miss Trump? Everybody says yes, because gas has doubled in price, and even though it's gone down 70 cents, that's not a win when it's double the price that it was on November 5th, 2020. So it's like people do want to go back to when they could afford stuff, but this is an actual attack, a coordinated attack on the middle class. They want us to have nothing. It's just basically like the World Economic Forum, like Klaus Schwab says, you will own nothing and you will be happy. So maybe Trump steps in the way of that a little bit because he's not as big a globalist as these people like Joe Biden, because they're actual globalists. They really want to destabilize America in order for these multinational corporations that pay their bills, that pay them all their money, in order to gain global dominance. So that's the problem in society, is that we're not being run by humans, we're being run by actual corporations. And Trump is emboldened to those corporations too. So, he acts like he's America first, and some of his tactics are American first, but it's not really fully America first. But I think people would like him more than Biden, his policies, definitely.
Well, it was Romney that said corporations are people, and Romney seems to viscerally hate the MAGA movement. Can you imagine imagine him, especially on the night, I think 4 days from now, with the Liz Cheney primary, and how hilarious that will be.
Oh man.
Well, she's getting crushed. I think she's down like 57 points or something like that. And her dad, I mean, Dick Cheney is a literal war criminal. I mean, say what you will about 9/11, but they said they had weapons of mass destruction and they went and started a never-ending war. I mean, I guess it ended after 20 years and murdered millions of people. Over what? Over literally weapons that didn't exist. And her dad was the architect of that whole thing. So he's more evil than Trump ever could be, in my opinion.
And she looks like Miss Piggy.
This isn't so much about the policies themselves, but again, if we were to put on the political strategist hats, if we want a lot of the policies that are more MAGA-oriented to succeed, as opposed to being stampeded on by people who otherwise would have been in favor of them, do you think that maybe it is worth taking a step back and thinking about a kind of strategy where people who are... I'm not talking about like the woke coastal elites, I'm just talking about like average people who don't really know where to go. They find themselves to be politically orphaned. That maybe certain approaches that are taken by people who are in the MAGA movement are so ham-fisted as to turn a lot of those potentially viable voters off.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, yeah, well, but honestly, no. At the same time, I mean, I think a lot of people in the MAGA movement are like, America first. Yeah, when it goes really cutarded and they say JFK Jr. is coming back to become president, yeah, that turns people off. But like people just wearing a red hat and being patriotic, I don't know. I think that I don't think the black community or Hispanic community is turned off by that. I don't know how women feel, but no, I don't think it's as toxic as it seems. I think some of the stuff on the left is even more toxic. So, no, I don't know if it's that big of a turnoff to people. But like I said, are we ever going to meet in the middle? No, people are going to vote blue no matter who. And, if the election can be, if they can put their thumb on the scale, we may never, ever have one that we can trust ever again.
That's a good point. Yeah, and Lev, you got to understand that there are people in the Democratic Party that are like they have Pol Pot 2024 T-shirts in mind. So I wouldn't think there's anything particularly ham-fisted about the MAGA movement. I would say that the QAnon thing is a liberal LARP. That's not. I mean, that is definitely AstroTurf.
I would say like this. Yeah. It's not as ham-fisted as far as the radical left people go. I think those are way more ham-fisted. I mean, Alex, you've had plenty of experience being around them. My approach, though, is the people who I know, the New York City people who are not happy about the crime rate, are not happy about a lot of these things that I think they'll agree with Trump supporters on. They have this impression of Trump that was given to them by the worst things that he said. Like, even if those things were misconstrued, even if you talk about like the Mexican comment, about Mexicans being rapists, even if he technically was not saying that, he was technically talking about the bandits that go over the border, still the very fact that he gave that kind of ammunition to people basically mean that now the people who work at Google, Facebook, who actually would have been on the side of a lot of these MAGA policies, let's say, they can't even say that now. They're stuck.
Yeah, but Lev, anybody that realizes this, that people can get deported and they don't have to face the same punishment that you and I would have to here in America. We would have to do our crime, but they can go in ICE, and ICE will deport them, and then they can come sneak right across the border and just live illegally again. So that's what he was talking about. It's not just the normal person trying to escape for a better life to America.
Sure.
He was talking about these career criminals that literally use America as a way to commit crime, and when they get caught for that crime, instead of paying their pittance, or if you do the crime, you must commit the time, whatever the saying is, I don't even know it. I'm just saying they don't have to do that. They're held to a lower standard than you and I are as citizens, and they get to go back to their home country and sneak right across the border. So that actually is a big issue. And now you see, like, sometimes when they do these border pickups, there's people that were ex-rapists, actual rapists, or actual, murderers that have gone across the border. So yeah, it looked bad optically because it looked like he lumped in every Hispanic person as a rapist. That's not what he meant. And anybody with half a brain realizes that, and they're being very
people don't realize that. That's the problem. Yeah. And even the people who do,
but Hispanics,
but people are stupid
do.
Well, people are stupid.
There's been a huge swing in Hispanic voters. I would point out that the double standard extends far beyond just the base voter, though. It goes to the highest rungs of the political elite and the legacy media. Do you remember when Trump did the Cinco de Mayo taco salad.
Of course,
tweet
the taco bowl.
when,
The
when
best.
he was
Trump
running,
Tower
and
makes the best bowls.
Exactly. He was called absolutely racist. He was absolutely dragged for days for that. Jill Biden literally decided to compare Hispanic voters to breakfast tacos, saying, "Oh my God, they're as diverse as all the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio." You heard almost nothing. She apologized, and they said, "Well, we're sure that she's very sorry." It was a total double standard.
Listen, when I called AOC a big booty Latina and I said you're hot like a hot tamale, people freaked out. They said, "Why would you sexualize her? Why would you call her hot tamale?" I was like, the day before, Jill Biden literally called Mexicans freaking breakfast tacos. And on top of that, AOC want to get mad that I sexualized her. She's the same woman that cheerleads all of the funding in the state of New York for drag queen story time at libraries. They literally do not care if your teacher sexualizes these kids and gives them pornographic books and first grade, second grade. They want sex ed in kindergarten, basically. So these people that are sexualizing our children are actually doing fake outrage if they get mad that I say, "Oh, you're a big booty Latina." So, it's just ridiculous what they can take and what they can misconstrue.
She just got upset about her weight loss regimen, I think, in that situation.
She looks good, though. Honestly, she looks good.
Now you've got to. I mean, you got to weigh in on Myra Flores at some point.
Well, I know, and then see, they're mad that she won that for the first time in whatever 50 years that a conservative candidate had won that district. Maybe it's like 80 years, and then she votes for amnesty to give people, illegal immigrants citizenship. But honestly, I do think that is what do they say, a red wave. I think there is a conservative wave coming. But at the same time, I look at Dr. Oz. He sucks. He's in Pennsylvania going against Fetterman. He's probably going to lose. Like, there's just both politicians on both sides are, they pee on us and tell us it's raining. We're never going to, idolizing a politician is like thinking the stripper actually likes you. So it's just kind of people need to take accountability for their own universe and not let these politicians, dictate whether they're happy or sad.
That's why we need more individuality. Rugged individualism is what we need at some point.
I couldn't agree more. But again, with the idea that even with the rugged individualism, there's always going to be some kind of a hierarchy, whether we like it or not. But speaking of the Drag Queen Story Hour, Styx, you remember Paul Rossi? He was on the stream where you and he were talking about the education system. He was the teacher of Grace Church School who was kicked out for opposing CRT. He recently did an article in the Post Millennial talking about the school head admits error for drag queen performance after parents threatened donor strike. And the guy who's running the school right now, his name is Robbie Penover II, and he is a descendant of the financier J.P. Morgan, believe it or not. And he said over here, however, he remained unapologetic about the goals of the drag performance at the chapel, which was towards affirming the value and worth of the LGBTQ plus members of our school community through drag performance for minors, defying critics who he claimed were disgusted that we would celebrate as beloved those people they disdain because of whom they love, the pronouns they use, or the clothes they wear. Any comments?
So yeah, when the donor class speaks up, all of a sudden there's change. When everyone else, when the parents go to the parent conference with the teachers or something like that, they call them extremists, and the FBI looks into them. The second that the donor to the school, who cuts a $500,000 check every single year, the second that they complain, all of a sudden it's a different story. It's almost like there are rules for thee and not for me within the educational system. This is why we need more charter schools and homeschooling.
Definitely.
Just fuck the public education system. It's useless.
No, and it's useless at every level. I mean, obviously the indoctrination starts at a young age, but then you get to college, it's even worse. I remember one of the first classes I took at LSU, we watched An Inconvenient Truth, and they said, oh, by the time, in 10 years from now, we're going to be underwater, yada, yada, yada. It's just like, it's literally an indoctrination camp at every level. And I think it even gets stronger in college because you think you're on the right side of the morality. You think you have the moral superiority by being this instead of being an individual like you were saying earlier, to just be a sheep and to just get in line with everybody else. And that's like the worst thing we can do. We need to bring back the individualistic mindset for the youth instead of just following the leader.
And before we get to super chats, I know Styx, you have a hard out at 10 o'clock, right?
Yes.
Okay, so before we get to the super chats, the last thing which I'm trying to see if there's a possibility of it happening in the future is if you talked right now about the donor class, and even there with this descendant of J.P. Morgan, even he's having a hard time pushing it into the direction that a lot of the parents actually want it to be pushed now. A lot of these rich New Yorkers, like I said before, they don't like the wokeness in the schools. They don't like the rising crime rate. And the other thing that they don't like, though, is they don't like the idea of there being this individual like Donald Trump who would fire anybody that disagrees with him, nor do they like the impression that the media creates, which I think Trump has given a lot of ammunition towards creating. So like Alex, you said, of course I agree with you that what Trump meant by the migrants is not what the media was saying, but this is still why I wish in the future there would be some other candidate, somebody that will be able to come in, who I think a lot of these uptown New Yorkers are begging for, who would not be for the woke stuff, who would not be for the open borders, but at the same time who would just not give all this ammunition, nor be somebody who would have a mindset that is kind of authoritarian when it comes to just firing whoever he disagrees with or whoever says something negative about him.
Well, just wait till more and more migrants get to New York City. Then they might change their mind. They might become Trump-pilled, I guess you'd say.
Let's see what happens. So we are going to get to the super chats right now. Let me open up the stream labels, which I forgot to do. And also, listen, everybody here, check out all the older episodes of Break the Rules. We're going to have a lot more wonderful streams coming at you. I'm currently negotiating with various guests, so we are going to have a couple of very interesting people coming in soon. Ariel Pink is going to be back with us, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And not only is it going to be Ariel Pink, but I just got a confirmation from Winston Marshall, who, if you guys don't know who Winston Marshall is, he is a very famous musician. He was a guitarist for the band called what was it called? Mumford and Sons. So So he's going to be on with Ariel Pink on Break the Rules. We're just negotiating when exactly that's happening, but that should be happening very, very soon. So anyway, I'm going to go to, and once again, patreon.com/breaktherules. Become a patron. Here is a link to the Patreon. So go there. You are not going to regret it. There are very beautiful magnets that my father Alexander created just for you. So check out the wonderful perks. Anyway, here are the super chats. Here we go. 1 hour ago, Sebastian Monroe, $2. Preemptive clang for kitties. Adam Thumb, $4.99. Hey Alex, would you ever troll Swalwell by dressing up as a lady of the night, asking him to cheat on his wife again?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be there the first week of September. I fly there September 6th, and I'm going to get I'm going to be in D.C., and I'm going to get an Asian actress off of Craigslist, and I'm going to say she's Fang Fang, and I'm going to confront Swalwell and say, this is Fang Fang, she's pregnant, do you want her to get an abortion? So this will be good, yeah, I mean, Eric Swalwell and Ilhan Omar, I want to, confront her about marrying her brother. Those two are like the top of my list of people that I want to confront.
Wait, is it Styx's birthday today?
No, that's a joke in chat. It's not my birthday till January.
All right, there we go. Dr. Zayoden, 10 pounds. Or 10 euros. I can't tell these icons apart. Is this the meetings of the superminds? Alex and Styx, thank you, BTR, for hosting these wonderful bastards. Clank. Thank you, good doctor. Order, control, balance, £2. Public school equals NPC factory. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you on the idea that public schools should be diminished and charter schools, like even I did a Google Map search of this place in Indiana, Gary, Indiana, which is considered to be a very horrible, dangerous place, even for people who are passing by. Yet there was like this leadership academy, and it was given all these wonderful, wonderful reviews, while the public school, not that far away from it, was basically reviewed as just being these places where parents just dump their kids at and just leave them there. So
basically
already,
like a daycare center.
Yeah. So that would definitely be the way to go. I'm going to see if there are any more super chats here, but while I'm looking at that, Styx, are there any questions that you are burning to ask the powerful Alex Stein 99 prime time?
Yes, other than those, are there any other people that are on your list of trolling?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, you know. I think the Bernie Sanders, I would like to ask him, though, a serious question about Seth Rich, who I feel like was, murdered. So I'd really like to talk to Bernie. And that's the other thing is, like, I'll go after people on the right. I went after Ted Cruz. I went after Dan Crenshaw. So I'd like to get Crenshaw again because some of these politicians have the thinnest skin. That's what sticks. That's what I don't believe. I figured if you got into power like that, you would have had to deal with, like, whether you're right wing, you had to deal with the leftist mob. If you're left wing, you would have to deal with the right mob. But no, that's not the case. These people live in a vacuum where everybody kisses their butt. So as soon as you say you're Eye Patch McCain, he ran to the left-wing media to protect him and, said that he was assaulted and lied. And then AOC played the victim. So these big, bad politicians, they want to play the victim. So I got a laundry list of people I need to get after. But Ilhan Omar and Eric Swalwell, those are 1 and 2 that I want to get.
With Crenshaw, just make sure you don't come up on his blind side or he won't see you. So
I know. That's what everybody says. They play the meme where they did the video where I confronted him and they just made half the screen black. I thought that was funny. And they said it was from his perspective.
And with Bernie, he's like 86, so you better hurry up.
And I kind of like Bernie. I don't even hate Bernie. I hate that what happened to Seth Rich. He didn't even, he totally gave that election to Hillary.
Vermonter here, Bernie Sanders. Yeah, I troll him hard. Do it for me.
Yeah, no, I'm going to troll him, but
Do
it's
it
just,
as a
it is what it is.
If I was advising Dan Crenshaw, I'd tell him to get a parrot.
Oh, Jesus.
Nah, that would make him more popular, probably, yes.
Yeah, no, people have to make fun of themselves a little bit more. But do you ever think that you would have any contentions, or let's say in the future, if Alex Stein finds something within not the more neoconservative Republicans, but something that Trump supporters are for, whether it's something religious or something that you may not be that big of a fan of, would you feel like you would be able to say something against them, or do you feel like if that's done, then you wouldn't be welcome in certain functions? Like, that's kind of like the thing I'm trying to figure out here. Whether you're Dan Crenshaw, whether you're any entertainer or politician, if you kind of go against whatever it is that's your tribe, then you're going to get excluded. Do you think that that limits people in a certain way from expanding?
Well, most people for sure, but I'm not part of a tribe because, like, I spoke at the Dallas County Young Republicans, and Ted Cruz complained about that. They actually had me originally banned at CPAC, but luckily I'm friends with Congresswoman, with the Marjorie Taylor Greene, so she helped get me access back to CPAC. So no, there's people on the right that don't like me either, So
but that's different. But that's a different tribe. That's what I'm trying to figure out here. The Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's one tribe, and Ted Cruz, that's another tribe. Even if his tribe is a little bit closer to the Trump side. So if there was something that you would find faulty or bad about Marjorie Taylor Greene, would you be in a position that you would be able to speak about without getting,
Yeah, I'm friendly with her. Her and I have had dinner multiple times, and we've argued about stuff. Yeah, she's actually based in reality. She's like a mama bear. She's not one of these people that's like a know-it-all identity politics person. She's America first. So yeah, her and I don't agree on everything for sure. Yeah, there's definitely stuff. She's like, Alex, you're an idiot about that. So yeah, and honestly, I'm friendly to people that are friendly to me. Like I'll go after anybody, but if somebody's like personally friendly to me, I don't usually go after them. I try to make friends with the people, like the people that I troll or the people that I go after. Usually they're not nice to me. I consider myself a nice guy, and I like to spread the good vibrational energy, not the negative vibrational energy. And I only try to troll people that I think, like AOC, that are trying to abort all these babies that are actually doing bad in the world. I don't try to troll people that I think are trying to do good, in my opinion.
I did have one last question. How do you take your steak if you're not a vegetarian? How well done?
Well, I mean, of course, just cut off the horns, wipe its ass, and put it on a plate, medium rare. Come on, we don't want to cook it. You don't want to cook it. The better the steak, the less you want to cook it.
This has now become the trolling Razor Fist stream, by the way, Lev.
Oh, man, I would definitely love for Razor Fist to come on BTR one of these days. So we'll see what happens in the future. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Once again, patreon.com/breakthroughrules. And one final thing, I'm going to be doing a lot more of these shorts where I edit them to a very big extent. Like, I add music, I add a lot of clips in the background, kind of like a Monty Python style thing. So if you want to see an example of that, I'm going to link to it right after the stream is over in the card. But here is a link in the chat right now. Go in there. And lastly, for the people who are on Discord, join the Break the Rules Discord. I would love to get to know you guys more, what you think, what you believe. Here's the Discord link. So go there. And finally, Styx and Alex, is there anything you guys would want to promote? Let me know.
No, I just appreciate you having me on. Follow my Twitter, follow my Instagram, Primetime Stein, and it's an honor to meet you, Sticks. I really appreciate you coming on with me.
The honor's all mine. I loved the AOC video. That was it was exquisite.
We're gonna get some more. We're gonna be there the first week of September, September 6th. I'll be in DC on the Capitol steps.
Nice. Oh, and $19.99 US from Trip Boom X. Vote out the rhinos. All right, there we go.
I agree. See, I think that's almost worse is the people that say they're on your side and just lie to your face.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, we're going to be concluding the stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon. Good night, everybody.